Hi, everybody. It's Monday, and welcome to the devotions. Well, it's going to be wet, and we're looking forward to this week. The rain's a blessing, gets in the way of some things. Today, I want to remind you what we mentioned on Friday. Remember? Taste and see that the Lord is good. Well, there's a verse in the New Testament that refers to that. I just want to read it to you. It's in the first letter of Peter, chapter 2, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. Therefore, says Peter, rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander. And now, like newborn babes, crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation. Now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. Now that you've tasted the Lord is good, grow up. Any of your friends ever said to you, come on, grow up? Maybe there was a teacher that said to you once, you need to grow up. Makes you stop. Doesn't make you feel very nice when someone says that to you. But when you become a Christian, you taste, you see that the Lord is good. And a seed is planted, and that seed has got to grow. That seed of what we call salvation, new life in Jesus. And there are many ways that we can talk about growing up spiritually. But the way I want to refer to today is the way of obedience, taking action. I love the story of the disciples out on the lake in a stormy sea in the middle of the night, about 3:00 in the morning, and Jesus comes walking to them. And you remember, they see him, they think it's a ghost, but then he says, don't worry, it is I. And Peter said, Lord, if it is you, call me. And so he called him, and Peter hopped out the boat, walked on the water, and then he sunk a bit for a while, and then Jesus picked him up, and they walked back to the boat. That to me speaks about growth. Peter grew through that experience. And I just want to mention 4 things and refer to some of the Christians of years gone by and the way they showed some of the same attitude. The first one is that Peter had vision. He saw Jesus doing something he'd never seen in his life before. This was an eye-opener. And so he asked Jesus, I want to do that too. And he had this vision to do it. You know, one of the first modern missionaries was a man called William Carey. He lived in Britain, and he was a cobbler, a shoemaker. And up on his wall, he had a map. And that map was a map of India. And God had laid upon his heart that he should go to be a missionary to the people of India. And he kept going, and he kept praying, and eventually he and his wife and family went to India. And there he did wonderful things. He had many difficult, tough times, but he became one of the first missionaries in what we would call our modern era to take the gospel to India, translated the Bible into the local languages, etc. The next thing is a desire. Peter looked at Jesus, I want to do that. There was that strong desire in him. There was a doctor in London. His name was Dr. Barnardo. And one night he was walking home, and he saw these young children lying in the doorways, some of them lying on roofs of houses. He said, what are you doing here? Why don't you go home? He says, we haven't got a home. And suddenly there was that desire born in him to give these children a home, a longing for them to find safety and security. And he began to find shelter for them, first in his own home and then elsewhere. And eventually a whole string of homes, which today are called the Dr. Barnardo homes. He was a Christian, and the Lord gave him that desire. And then Peter had to take a risk. He'd never walked on water before. He'd never seen anyone walk in water before, but he hopped out the boat, and he didn't know whether the water was going to hold him up. He took the risk. He trusted. And away he went. And he walked. He slipped a bit, but then Jesus picked him up. There's a movement called the Africa Inland Mission, which started in the 19th century. There were a group of people in North America who believed God was calling them to be missionaries in the middle of Africa. And so they said, who's going to go? And there was one man among them. He had a wife and children. He said, I'll go. He went. And his wife, his children, and he himself died. And so the next lot came. And they said, we'll go. And some of them died. And then another group went, and eventually the group became established. But what an enormous risk to take to share the gospel of Jesus. They were prepared to do it. And many Christians have taken risks for Jesus. And then lastly, action. Peter got out of that boat and he walked. He took action. I want to tell you about a woman called Mary Slessor. She was a little Scottish woman. She was short. She was a slip of a girl. And she wanted to be a missionary. When she was 28 years old, she joined the Scottish Presbyterian Missionary Society and went to Nigeria. She went into that hostile part of the world. She walked up the river. She walked through the forest, often just on her own, dressed in nothing but a simple dress. And she won the hearts of those people through love. She saved many of the children from infanticide, which was a big problem there, because if anyone had twins, it was regarded as bad luck, and so they killed these children. And many other things. She eventually came to be known as the Queen of that area, and even became the British representative of the government in that area, simply because of her love and her witness to Jesus. These stories tell me, grow up. Something to think about. God bless you as you go into this week. May you know much peace and may you have happy times. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.